Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Swing Baddder as we do a weekly recap as always. I'm joined by my father. Dad, how you been?
I'm great.
I know we don't have Todd with us this evening, which is probably for the best considering the Mets were not bad, they were not great. He's been up and down with them, but we can get into that another time. I'd like to start us off as always with our favorite part, the Batter 5. You ready to dump on these teams, if you will?
Or look at them from positive eyes today.
Okay. Well, starting off, we have the Athletics. I was calling them a city in the Athletics, but I've come to find out it's just the Athletics. That's all they're calling them right now. So the Athletics are in the Batter 5. What makes this bad for the Athletics is this is their third consecutive week in the Batter 5. They finished third this week. They take first. They had a perfect week for the Batter 5. They were 0-6 with a run differential of a -32. And you think, oh my Lord, -32, that must be a record. No. It's close, but it's not the worst of a -39 held by the second place team, the Rockies. But 32 run differential is a very, very bad omen. I also kind of tickled a little bit about this because ESPN and a couple writers were talking about, can the Athletics make the playoffs? I believe it was almost 2 weeks ago they were talking about this. And since then, their record, again, this is really remarkable about this team. I believe they were 22-21. There's something to that nature, and I believe, or 20-21, something like that. But they're 23-37 after beating the Batter 5 for 3 straight weeks. They cannot seem to get a win to save their lives. They were swept in a 2-game set by the Astros, who consistently play good baseball, and then they were taken to the woodshed by the Blue Jays. 4 straight games, which obviously helped the Blue Jays quite a bit on the plus-minus run differential. But overall, I would say that this is not a bad trend for the Athletics. They are trending in the way that the Rockies were trending. 3 times in a row is really, really poor.
You know, it's surprising to me a little bit because although I had no great dreams for the Athletics, thought that they actually could surprise people and be competitive. But 3 weeks like this, man, that wipes you out. I mean, you have to go like 10-2 just to get close to where you were. I mean, what are they set 14 games under 500?
Yeah, they're sitting 14 games under 500. To your point, they have to do a lot better. Their pitching is second worst in Major League Baseball, and they actually have the worst ERA in all of Major League Baseball. I think it's a 5.71. Their pitching has really, really taken a ride for them on the worst train. And to your point, turning this around means you have to do really, really well, consistently, really, really well. It's the struggle that we're seeing with the Braves currently. The Braves were just above 500. They just reached 500. They've had 2 so-so weeks, and now they're back, quite a bit below 500. When you start off 2-8 like the Braves did, it's very hard to get above 500. You have to have several weeks of really good baseball.
I saw an article today, I didn't read it, but it said Braves are on the verge of being irrelevant.
Irrelevant in Atlanta or irrelevant?
No, this year's race.
Oh my, that's what, no. Whoever wrote that is, no. Don't click on that. The Braves are doing just fine. The Athletics, you could argue. The Orioles, you could argue. The second place team, we could have argued 4 weeks ago. This is what's fascinating to me about the second place team. The Rockies are by far, there's no other way to put this. The Rockies are setting records all across baseball for the worst possible thing we've ever seen. They had a perfect week. They were 0-6. They did not get a win. They didn't get the 10th win yet. They're still waiting to get 10 wins. They're currently 9-50. What's shocking to me is going back to the very beginning of the season, looking at the Batter 5, they've been in the bottom 5 every week of the year, and the best place they've ever gotten to get out of the Batter 5 is 4th. So they've not even gotten to 5th. They've not even achieved the 5th place finish in the Batter 5. That's how you end up with a 9-50 record. The only thing that I will say about the Rockies that I think is what I'm finding is their run differential is only a -14 for 6 games. 6 games losing, which is not terrible. They lost 3 games by 2 runs, and they lost 2 games by 1 run.
Oh, wow.
A really good week for them. I know I'm trying to peel back layers to try to tell you some positivity, but they played against the Cubs and the Mets, both leading their divisions. And those were, I thought, a good week. I think the Rockies are going to have what you said is a 5-game win streak occur. When that happens, I don't know, but I think it's going to inevitably happen. You've said that. We all laughed at you. The fact that they're still searching for their 10th win is really, 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 really bad, everybody. There's nobody else in the league. Even the worst teams, I think, are almost 10 games above where the Rockies sit. And that's if you're playing terrible baseball. They have a $124 million payroll, as always. We get to hear that. And they are currently 9-50. But try to give you a little sprinkles on top of this cupcake. But right now, it's not pretty.
I'm still waiting for their 5-game winning streak.
Well, yeah, and when it happens, say Dad called it. And the rest of this batter five kind of is the teams we expected to be there. So the Angels are third place, the Los Angeles Angels. We thought the Angels would be in the batter five a little more. They haven't been. Trout came back. He's now back. He's playing today, and I think he hoped for his sake he's starting to look like his old self. They were 1-5 with a -7 run differential. They were swept by the Yankees, and they lost their series to Cleveland. So the good news is those are good teams you're playing. You're losing to. The bad news is they're now sitting down to 26-32. So they're in fourth place in a very weak AL West. I don't have a whole lot better things to say. This is the third time for them in the batter five, which is actually not terrible. You know, we have some teams that are a little bit higher, but a lot of teams have entered batter five 3 times. There's quite a few teams. This is their third time, so they get to hang out with those teams. And they have a $191 million payroll for their 26-32 record. So I'm not.
And these
32 doesn't make them out. You don't talk.
no. What works for them is that this follows an 8-game winning streak, which was really what propelled them to respectability. So 26-32 is not dig the grave yet. It's just their trend is not good.
Yeah, the 1-5 this week, and then we'll see what happens. They have an interesting week ahead of them. We'll see if they continue to be on the batter five after they really did play well. And your point, 8-game win streak really put them above and beyond. They were competing with the Rangers for a bit in that 3rd/4th place, and they really have leapfrogged the Athletics, who have had 3 terrible weeks. And that brings us to the last 2 in our batter five. We have the White Sox, which one could argue we expected to see them in the batter five quite often, and you would be correct. This is their 5th time in the batter five. They have a record of 18-40. The Rockies are 9-50. That just kind of shows you how much of a gap there is between the Rockies and the White Sox, which is really wild when I look at that retrospectively. Because that is, if you're behind someone by nine wins at this point, this way into the season, like, it's hard to get that back. These are the last 2 teams in the overall records of baseball, and there's that kind of a gap, which is really quite alarming. But the White Sox went 1-5. They did get swept by the Orioles. Not a good sign. The Orioles haven't been playing good baseball. They did lose their series to the Mets. They got their 1 win against the Mets, which I'm sure Todd would be screaming about. He had the easy record this week. The Mets played the White Sox and the Rockies, and they didn't have a perfect week. This was their 1 blemish. And the White Sox have all, $67 million here to get what they have. They and the Athletics have spent the least on the chart by far. The Rockies are 124 million, for instance. White Sox are 67 million. This is their 5th time being here, Dad. I think we're going to see them quite a few more times.
Well, I think of the 4 teams we've named, there's no real surprises here. I didn't think the Angels were going to be that good, and I thought the Athletics would do a little better. But everybody can have a bad week. I mean, you could be in first place and have a bad week. It's just these teams repeat bad weeks. That's horrible.
And great lead into our 5th place team. It's the first time they've been on the batter five, to your point. Anyone can have a bad week. Well, they certainly did. This is a team that I picked above others. This had a 2-win week. We had a couple 2-win week teams. I picked them because they ended up with a -20 run differential. This is the Philadelphia Phillies.
Wow.
They just came off a really great couple weeks. They were in first place ahead of the Mets, and now they are now in second place behind the Mets. They were swept by the Brewers quite soundly. They lost by a 17-run difference, 17 difference in runs, the Brewers versus the Philadelphia Phillies. And what's interesting is the Brewers are really quite hot at the moment. And they've had their hot times and they're not hot times. But the Phillies, this is their first time on the batter five. Their payroll, this is, I think, the highest one we've had so far, is $279 million. Their record's 36-22. So to your point, they were 2-4 this week. That did put them on the list. We had a couple 2-win teams, but I could have gone with a couple other teams, but their run differential and how they were swept by the Brewers, I think, put them right where they needed to be. This is the first time on the list, so congratulations, Philadelphia Phillies fans. You barely made it in fifth place.
I think this may be the last time this year that they hit the batter five. This was a really, really good team. What do you say? They're 2-4?
They were 2-4 this week.
Yeah, that's not disastrous. I mean,
No.
a lot of teams will go 2-4. If that's their worst week, they're okay.
I was looking at the past and I was seeing who's been on this so far, who's been on the list the most. So we've had this batter five running. Oh, how many times? I have it 9 times. So the Rockies have been on it 9 times. The White Sox have been on the list 5 times. That's quite a bit if you think about it. There are several teams that have never made a showing. And you said everyone has a bad week. So again, you could have a 2-win week, but if you have a couple 1-win teams, you're not going to make it. So I just wanted to go through the list, and you can tell me if you're shocked by any teams that haven't made our batter five yet. So the Yankees has not made the list yet. Not too surprising, lead the league. The Rays, Tampa Bay Rays, have not made the list.
That's a little surprising.
Another one that will not surprise you is the Detroit Tigers, playing great baseball. They have a great record. The Cleveland
Guardians.
Thank you. I was going to say we always like to go back to their old name. The Cleveland Indians / Guardians have not made the list yet, which is really quite remarkable. There's only one team in the AL West that has not made it. And if you look at the AL West, that's also surprising because you would think every team has made it because none of the teams are screaming. That would be the Astros.
Yep.
So that's a little surprising to me that the Astros have not made it. There's only one team now with the Phillies making it this week in the NL East, and that's the Mets, who have not made the list.
Right.
Which is really quite remarkable. And then in the AL
Central,
I'm sorry.
Dodgers haven't made it, have they?
I'm almost there. So the NL Central, the Reds, and the Brewers have not made the list.
Oh, wow. That's surprising.
The Reds did surprise me a couple times. Todd did argue that they should have been on the list. They were like right 6th, 7th. Again, being the final 5, the worst 5 is yet to be pretty bad. The Dodgers, we're going to the NL West now. The Dodgers, the Giants have not made the list. Those are the only teams that have not made the batter five this season.
So the Padres made it.
The Padres made it one time at 5th place. That was the 4th week in the season.
Okay.
So again, barely made it. Had probably a 2-4 week. Had a bad run differential. It happens. So I will be utterly surprised if not every team ends up in the batter five, because to your point, the bad teams will have a 5-game win streak and the good teams have a bad week. And this just happens. And this is the fun of looking at a week-to-week batter five. There are trends that you clearly see on the standings. And if you've been in the batter five for quite a while, it can get really bad. The one thing that I will note, the Athletics were not in the batter five all year long. The last 3 weeks, they've been in the batter five, and their record has tanked since then. It has just been disastrous. So you don't want to be a repeat offender. It's okay to skim it, hit 5th, 4th, and then get out of it. But Diamondbacks are going through a rough patch. I think they were 6th this week. They were really bad last week. They were 2nd. So they're right on that cusp of the Athletics of just they need to get out of that. But we'll go into them a little bit later. Any surprises there of the teams that I mentioned? I think you said the Rays, Reds, those kind of teams.
Yeah, I surprised about Reds and Rays. Even the Brewers. I didn't know the Brewers didn't. I didn't think they. I guess their bad weeks have been not crucially bad.
Is they would get swept and then they would win, 2 games in the next series. That's the other thing is it's really you're looking at 2 series. The only time that there was more than 2 series was the first week of the year because they started the weekend before Sunday, so I kind of had a little bit more time. That was probably the time the Brewers would have made it because they started so poorly at the very beginning of the season, but they again got out of it with a couple wins. So yeah, that was the interesting aspect when I go back and look at some histories and see what things are and what things aren't and what's happening in the world and what's not. So that's the batter five, folks. Feel free to comment and let us know what your thoughts are and if the Rockies are ever going to get out of this list. One would think they will, but with their record, they're kind of cementing themselves in the fact that they.
So let's just do this. I'm thinking to myself, if you've never been in the batter five, you're probably, with a little imagination, still in the race. So let's take a look at the Reds, who haven't been very impressive. And they're in a tough league with St. Louis and the Cubs. How far out of that race are they?
So the Reds are a good team to look at. So they are 29-31. So they're almost 500. They're not. They don't have a really bad record, if you will, but the Reds are currently 8.5 games out of their division. The Cubs are 37-22 and racing away with that division. And the Cardinals are 4 games back at 33-26. The Reds are only 4.5 games out of the wild card.
Yeah, I was going to say that's what they have. Yeah, they have to aim for that. Yeah.
As of right now, I would agree with that. They haven't been good. They haven't been bad. They've been about 500. The Brewers are 32-28 in difference. A little bit better, obviously. 5.5 games. They're 1.5 in the wild card race behind there. So when you look at the Diamondbacks, which we have both looked at, and it's not trending very well, they are 8 games back in their division at 28-31, and they are 5 games back in the wild card. So the Cubs are doing better than the Dodgers, not by much, but by 36-23 for the Dodgers, 37-22 for the Cubs, and the Mets lead their division 37-22 with the Phillies 36-23. So all those teams are right there. You have 4 teams that are really doing well there. So, and like I was telling you about the Braves, the Braves made the list last week and they had a really bad start to the season. We all remember their first 10 games, they were 2-8. They had just reached over 500. Well, the last 2 weeks, they haven't been that good. They're 27-31 now. So they're 5.5 games back on the wild card and 9.5 games back from the lead in the NL East. So
I have a printout of my predictions.
Ooh.
And I made a bold prediction that the Red Sox were going to be really great, and they haven't been. Where do they stand at batter five, and how far out of because the Yankees are so hot, I'm sure they're way behind in their division. But what about wild card?
So just as a batter five reference, the Boston Red Sox have finished in the batter five twice this year. So 3 is kind of where you don't want to be. Twice is not great. Like for instance, if I was going to compare them with another team that we thought was going to be really good, which is the Rangers had been on the batter five 3 times this season. So as far as standings are concerned for the Red Sox, they are 4th in their division. They're 29-32.
Almost like the Reds.
Very much like the Reds. They're 8.5 back of the New York Yankees because the Yankees are 36-22, very similar to the Cubs. And they are 3.5 back of the wild card. So don't need as good of a record in the AL to hit that wild card. So there's a lot of teams. And if I look at the NL East, here's what we have: the Yankees, the Blue Jays, the Rays, and then Boston. And the Blue Jays are 31-28. So there's really not a big discrepancy between the Blue Jays and the Boston Red Sox. And I would say that the Red Sox haven't figured it out. They're hot, they're cold, they get real cold.
Everybody who's in that position says, hey, just a little hot streak, and people will be talking about us. Put together 5 or 6 in a row, and it changes everything.
The month of June is I think, a divider we've seen in baseball. The weather's nice. You're not going to get a lot of bad weather games. No one can excuse cold weather for cold bats now. At the end of June, right before your birthday on July 4th, we'll understand like which teams do we think are going to be sellers and which teams are going to be buyers. Because I think if you're within 5 games of the wild card right now, I don't think it's that bad. Now, I say that the Angels are the team that's 5 games out of the wild card. When I look at the NL, you have the Braves are 5.5 back, for instance. So there's quite a difference between the Miami Marlins, who are 9 games back of the wild card, and the Braves, who are 5.5 games. Now, when we look at the month of June, which is where we are, let's see where this ends up. Because you see, I don't foresee the Braves being as far back as they are. And I certainly don't foresee like some of the teams in the AL being where they are. So we'll see if the wild card starts to separate the good teams in the wild card versus the bad teams. And, now you're starting to get more of a blended schedule. You get to play more teams. You're playing similar teams, similar opponents. Your schedule's starting to, cookie cutter spread or a peanut butter spread on the whole season. So,
You and I talked a lot about how to follow baseball is not day by day, but you said break it into 10-game blocks.
Yep.
And then it's like one football game in the season. And batter 5 is close to that. Break it into 6 and 7-game blocks. And, 4 and 2, 2 and 4, not much difference unless you're doing it every week. 3 weeks in a row at 2 and 4 ain't good. 3 weeks in a row, 4 and 2 is actually excellent. Okay, that's a 666 percentage. So, but in 6 games or 7 games, it's just a snapshot. But if you look at it over 3 weeks, then it becomes more significant. But that's why I like what you did about how many times have they been in this. And there we see how bad the Rockies and the White Sox are and things like that. But we know that. We knew that before the season.
But the other thing I look at with this is not just where you're in the batter 5 quite a bit. You also, if you're going to be like the Rangers, who have been in the batter 5 quite a bit, that means you have to have 5-1, 6-0 weeks. Like the Phillies just had a 6-0 week. Then they had a 2-4 week. So over the course of the 12 games, they're 8-4. So this bad week the Phillies had was followed by a great week. So that's why the record is what you're seeing. Because again, if you look over 12 games, you're 8-4. You're happy, right? I'm happy. I would be happy with that. So it's easy. I shouldn't say it's easy. It isn't difficult to be on the batter 5 for a week. It's the question of what did you bookend it with?
Yes.
What did you do before that week? And what did you do after the week? To the point of the Athletics, they were batter 5 third place, batter 5 third place, batter 5 first place. Those are terrible trends. And you can see that in the record. Absolutely. A sinking ship. And then to your point, you're like, how do you recover from that? Well, you have to play like you're not the Athletics. You have to go 9-1. You have to go 12-2. And if I were to say, well, the Braves had a bad start, they were 2-8. Do you think the Braves can go 8-2? I would say yes. I believe the Braves can go 8-2. The Athletics, what makes it worse is they had their 8-game win streak before this. They were winning quite a bit, which is why they wrote about, hey, maybe they can make the playoffs. So they had their win streak like the Angels did. So like the Angels had an 8-game win streak, and now they're on the batter 5. So if they're on the batter 5 the next 3 weeks, that 8-game win streak is completely wiped out. And you wiped it out, and you went further down into the hole than you did before.
Yep.
So the good teams play good for a reason and have good records. What will be interesting is to see at the end of the year how many teams stay out of the batter 5 all year long, because then I look at that when I look at the playoffs. Because now what the thing I hate about baseball playoffs, I really do not like a 3-game series, and I also don't like a 5-game series. Because any of these teams can go 2-4 over 6 games. And if you look at a 5-game series, you're talking about 2-3 over the course of 162 games. You need to have a 7-game series. 4-3 over 7 games, or 3-4 over 7 games, or 2-4, what have you. These are very possible things that can happen to a good team and a bad team.
I think
5-game series, winning 3 games, getting hot, having everything click, I think that's where you get your upsets.
Well, yeah, I think it depends what you're trying to accomplish. If you want the very best teams playing in the World Series, Yes, 7-game series. Okay, who's got the pitching depth, etc. Who's healthy? When you enter it into 3 and 5-game series, that gives teams who aren't so good an opportunity. Not 3-game series, 2 good pitching performances, and you take a team out. And same thing with 5. If you have 3 decent games, you can take a good team out. So what you can do with the way it is now, Brendan, is you get an opportunity for lesser teams to be in the World Series. You know, in 2023, the Diamondbacks only won like 84 games. They didn't even belong in the playoffs. But here they are in the World Series because, you know, hot pitching, timely hitting, and all of a sudden you're winning these things. So it depends what you want to accomplish. If you want to see the very best teams, yes, 7-game series is the way to go. Obviously, baseball doesn't care about that. They want it.
I never liked it. I know it did benefit. It does benefit sometimes, but I also think, like, here's the other thing that I like about some of the other playoffs that I see. If you face somebody and, for instance, 3 rounds to get to the World Series, right? If you have to go 7 games and 7 games, you're talking about that depth, that timely pitching. You can't have a good pitcher get hurt. You can't have a good pitcher have, like, you can have a good pitcher have a bad game and you'll be okay. So the depth rings true. And then you would say, well, that advantage is the teams that are spending the money for the depth, like the Dodgers, which they clearly had that advantage last year. So pros and cons to everything. I just think over the course of a baseball season, if you look at 162 games, we're seeing teams that are up and teams that are down. But winning a series, a very short series, although brief, it can turn on you pretty bad if you lose that first game.
I understand that, but if they were to consider going to 7-game series, they got to drop the season back to 154 games because you're going to be playing in mid-November. I mean, the stadiums that don't have domes, it's going to be 30 degrees.
Or you do what I think they should do is they should have more double headers. You schedule in double headers. You already have travel days on Sunday. You can take a 4-game series on a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, with a Saturday being a doubleheader game. And then you're getting more fans into the watch more baseball. And it just becomes part of the lure of baseball. You're condensing your season. You can still play the 162. And you just, again, you're giving the opportunity to bring that season in by having double headers. So I'm a big fan that of scheduled double headers. You have to do it because of rain delays and what have you. If you just made it a part of the regular season, the only problem that occurs is what happens on a rain delay of a double header when they have to make up 2 games. That becomes difficult. So I get all of that. But at the same time, once you get to the month of June, you can start doing double headers. And again, the good teams with the depth will do better with that. And that's what you want to see. You want to see the managers who can manage those kind of things and manage, and it's never hurt to have, a double dip in the middle of summertime.
I guess I would fall on the opposite side. I like the playoffs the way they are. I think when you start adding double headers into a season, the way we treat pitchers now and the way pitchers get injured now, you mess up their schedule. You give them more innings than you want to give them. I mean, if you've got to cram that many games in, you got to have 6 starters, 7 starters. You got to do these bullpen games. And what you're going to end up doing during the season is kind of what a lot of teams do now. You pitch a couple of guys and then send them down and bring up fresher arms from AAA for a couple of days, send them down, bring up more guys. It's not a 12 or 13-man pitching staff. It's actually an 18-man pitching staff that keep taking plane rides back and forth because the arms don't last very long. I mean, even in the bullpens, they don't like the bullpen guys to pitch 2 straight days. I mean, if they do, they go, oh, he can't pitch anymore. He pitched 2 days in a row. Well, how many batters he face? 7? And now he can't pitch? Well, they just treat pitchers way different now.
You're not wrong, and there's philosophies to all of that because of the speed that these pitchers are pitching. Right now, we're in a wonderful time of year with College Baseball World Series, which I'm sure you're tuning into. And I think that is just by the way they do College Baseball World Series is tremendous because the upsets are through the roof. You want to talk about you only need a game or two to get to the next. I mean, any player at any time can pitch really out of their mind and make that happen. And again, once you add on those metal bats, things can happen. Amazing things happen with metal bats. So you're a pro. I think there's ways you can mix this up and make it more friendly. And I would also, one thing I would change is I'd make more day baseball in the summertime. I think you should have day baseball in the summertime. You should be doing things for kids, you know, whether it's certain age level gets to go in for free. You need to start cultivating the youth to come and watch the game and, enjoy it, because their perspective of baseball could be like, why am you're battling all of these things for kids' attention, and baseball is a pace of play. We talk about this. It's not 5 seconds fame. Baseball is, four at bats. Your best player could go 0-4, you know, not be there, and then another day he could be there. So day baseball games, I'm a big fan of in the summertime. Something really nice about that, just the whole atmosphere. Leisurely sitting and watching baseball. So getting to some more swing batter activities, things that we look at. So not surprising, the Rockies still lead the league in runs allowed. They have 373 runs allowed, which is quite a lot. However, the Athletics are catching them. The Athletics are now at 363. And if I looked at plus minus or run differential that I like to look at, the A's are a minus 110. The Rockies are still a minus 185. So the Athletics are scoring quite a bit. The Rockies still are not. So there still is a big gap between the two. When I look at the pitching staff, then I say, well, is anything that's shocking to me on the pitching staffs? And Dad, this is something that I think we need to probably do a show or two on just the Diamondbacks. The Diamondbacks are currently fifth worst for runs allowed in all of baseball. You were talking about them having 7 starters with the injury to Corbin Burns, which is really tragic, especially because they moved him up in a start. I don't have an answer. Their bullpen is not that great. Their runs allowed is 306. That's really not good. Again, they're ahead of the watch. These are the club they're in, just so you know. A little ahead of the Nationals, far ahead of the Los Angeles Angels, right behind the Orioles. The Orioles were 315. Then you have the Miami Marlins, the Athletics, and the Rockies. So the Diamondbacks are in the worst part of baseball. When you're allowing that many runs, then you're like, okay, well, then you got to score a lot of runs. And the Diamondbacks, for their part, are doing pretty good. They have scored 296, which is way above average, but they've allowed 306. So if they had any kind of pitching staff, like if they allowed 40 less runs, this team is probably 5 extra wins, 8 extra wins.
There's a statistic about the Diamondbacks have lost 7 games this year where they've scored 6 runs or more. 11 losses. The next closest team has 5. When you score 6 runs or more, losing. The White Sox have never lost a game where they scored 6 months or longer. That's 11 losses when you have enough runs to win the game. Just a lot of stuff. When you play winning baseball, you do a lot of winning things. You get hits with men on base. You get people out when they have men on base. You don't get people thrown out on the base paths. The Diamondback leads the majors in men being thrown out at home this year.
Oof.
So, there's just a whole bunch of little things. And then Brendan and I had the pleasure of going to a game on Friday night where in the first inning, the pitcher threw a double play ball to end the inning, and on the flip to second, the second baseman dropped the ball. The starting pitcher had to throw 15 more pitches that inning. He was at an 18 count in the first. At the end of the first inning, he was at 33 because of that error. Consequently, he couldn't pitch in the 6th inning. He was done. And so when you make little mistakes like that don't seem like much, it hurts you everywhere. And I know it's just all you guys have had that experience with your own teams where it's just a boneheaded play, and now your pitcher can't pitch into the 7th inning because he's used too many pitches.
The other thing that I noticed when we were watching them, they do all of the wrong things at the wrong times to bring losses. Like we talked about, they brought in a relief pitcher who walked 3 people. In the midst of that, getting 2 outs, the only hit he allowed was after the bases were loaded. Flip that around, have the hit first, walk 3 people. You only allow 1 run. No, he's allowed 2. After that double play ball, they allow 2 runs. Then the pitcher, gets hit a little bit. The other team gets uplifted. Missed tracking of a fly ball by your left fielder who should have made a catch that didn't. So there's just things that you look at that are just the amount the when you add them together, the team ends up with a loss or not as high of a chance to win. You're eliminating your chance to be victorious. And in
Now, what
baseball,
happens is that can happen to a good team on a bad day, but when you're not winning, it happens too much.
yep,
Too much. That okay, we screwed that up. And then you look back, and then we screwed this up. Then we didn't get a bunt down. Okay,
yes.
that would have created a run. And then you look at all this stuff and say, it's all a bunch of little things that good teams do. They just do it and they win the games. And that's what makes baseball a beautiful sport. It's not just, belting home runs and striking people out. There's a whole bunch of other things that can mess up a team.
It's really, and again, we look at some of our teams that we've seen and just say, what's going on? The thing that I look at for runs allowed, because to me, if you're not allowing a lot of runs, you are a playoff contender. If your pitching staff isn't allowing runs, I don't care how bad you're hitting. I don't care what's going on in offense, because if your team is not allowing runs, you're going to be good. Those teams I just listed are all not doing well. Could they turn it around? Yes, but they have to stop allowing runs. The Mets lead all of baseball in runs allowed with 193. They're 8 ahead of second place.
You mean leave baseball?
They lead all of baseball in the least amount of runs
Least
scored
amount
against them.
Really?
Their pitching staff, the Mets lead all of baseball.
Even the Rangers?
Yes, the Rangers and the Kansas City Royals are tied for second at 201.
Wow.
We just went through the worst, right? When you're in the 300 range, this is a 100-run differential over where we at almost 60 games here. That's a big deal. And when I look at these teams, like if you were to say, do these teams have playoff possibilities? The Giants are right after the Twins. So it goes Kansas City, Twins, then Giants. That's 203, 206. The Tigers are 210. The Rays are 215. Remember, the Rays were never in a batter 5. If you're not allowing runs, guess what? You're in ball games.
Yep.
And you're in ball games in the 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th innings, and you get into someone's bullpen and you have a couple things go your way. So these teams, to me, when I look at teams that have the possibility to really make a mark in the playoffs, these teams I'm listing are really good. One of the teams that surprises me for runs allowed is the Dodgers are at 263, which is 9th worst. They're tied for 9th worst. Now, it wouldn't surprise anybody who follows baseball because the Dodgers have lost so many pitchers to injury. But when I look at the playoffs and I say, hey, the Dodgers have elite hitting, which they do, you have to match that up with good pitching.
Yep.
Because when you play a 3-game, 5-game series, you're not playing the Rockies anymore. You're not playing the bad teams that let you score runs. You're playing the best pitching. So 2-1, 3-2, those are big time games. And right now, when I look at it, we'll see how this plays out. But the teams, like the Rangers, don't have a good record. They can't score runs. They're difficult. But their pitching is on such a level that they could easily take that division. If their hitting gets figured out, that division is for the taking. That's just what I look at, the reality of baseball.
Well, the thing about baseball, though, is that it could go the other way, and all of a sudden their pitching goes in a funk.
You're not wrong. If we're looking at this and the Rangers go the other way with pitching and their hitting doesn't come back, then they're done. They're done. Because, again, their hitting has not been there. Individual efforts, and I would like to follow the Rockies. One of the things that is alarming to me is 3 of the worst 4 starting pitchers' whips, hits, walks per inning, are Colorado Rockies. The reason why that surprises me is they're all still starting. You have Antonio Sensatella with a 1.98 whip. He has 12 games started. He's 1-10. He is still going to start for the Rockies. That's not going to stop. You and I both know that. Then I look at the next ones are Freeland of the Rockies. I believe he has a 1.64 whip. Where did I see him? Yep, Kyle Freeland with a 1.63 whip. And then you have our other friend, Jermaine Marquis. He is another starter for the Rockies who is very high in the whip category with a 1.69. In between all of that, I believe I had a starter for the Angels sandwiched in there. I'm just looking at starters. Oh, no, I'm sorry. We have Rodriguez for the Diamondbacks who's in there. He's got a 1.70 whip, which is what we're trying to avoid. That's not surprising to have a Diamondback in the list. Just looking at starting pitchers, that I think those are the main ones that I see. That it's just not where you want to be, having a starting pitcher that you have to rely on for 10, 12 games with a whip of that high because you're just letting a lot of runners on. It's really, yeah, here we go. Oh, sorry, the Miami Marlins pitcher, Sandy Alcantara. He had 11 games started at the 1.67 whip. So
I don't know what happened to that guy. That guy was aces.
his ERA is at 8.47.
What happened to him?
Strikeouts, 40 strikeouts, 29 walks. I mean, there's something that we should do a dive. Is the velocity down? Did he get hurt? Does not want to play. I mean, he was, again, could he come back? Absolutely. But an 8.47 on your ERA is really, really bad. Even when I look at some of these other pitchers, like Kyle Freeland's a 5.72. I think Antonio, with that huge whip that he has, I think he has a lower ERA than that. So, yeah, he's been really, really bad. I don't know what the Diamondbacks are going to do. That's a question for another show.
I can tell you right off the bat. I'll give you a hint. Corbin Burns is going on the disabled list, and coming off the disabled list to take his place, Eduardo Rodriguez with a 7 earned run average. So I'll just give you a hint. The road ahead does not look good.
For one of the areas that they need to get better on, which is runs allowed. In the strikeout division that we like to look at, or I like to look at, Michael Poglia of the Colorado Rockies is now have 81 strikeouts. He still leads it with a 194 average, so he still is bad. Ella de la Cruz has actually gone down to 5th place with only 72 strikeouts. He's up with his average is up to 260. The one player that I am interested to following because of he is now back is Trout. He started really bad, 170, I believe, after today's baseball game. I think he's to the 220 average mark, which is really good. But I think Todd raised an interesting point about watching him for the possible All-Stars. Not All-Stars, sorry, the Major League Hall of Fame. He was obviously an elite talent, but the last couple of years with the injuries, his batting average has fallen, his strikeouts have gone up. We'll see how he plays the rest of the year. He's got to put together a couple really strong years for, to be even in that conversation piece. So that'll be interesting to watch him the rest of the season. What are you interested in the week of baseball upcoming, Dad?
The Rockies not making the batter 5 for the first time.
That would be very awesome. They have a chance. They play Todd's Mets in Colorado, which may hurt the runs allowed for the Mets, one would think, and then they face the Marlins to start off. How are they doing this evening?
The Marlins lost. The Rockies won their first game of the week.
So the Rockies have their 10th win, everybody. Yep. I think we should have fireworks go off.
1-0 for the week.
They're 1-0 for the week. So, again, I always joke with you, come Friday, I have like 8 or 9 teams with 1 win. And I'm like, oh, how's the weekend going to shape out? What does it look like? So, good for you, Rockies, on your 10th win. Who was the winning pitcher, Dad? Do you have that information?
No, take me a second here.
Because that's important. When you have 10 wins, it's important to know who's getting them for you.
Just a second. Technology is not doing well in my house tonight.
6-4 they won.
Yeah, I don't know if the starter got a win or a reliever.
It looks like Jermaine Marquis got the win, his second win of the year. He's 2-7 with a 6.98 ERA. So the Rockies get their 10th win, 6 runs, 12 hits, and they still got 2 errors and they got the win. So congratulations to the Colorado Rockies on their 10th win. They were behind 4-1 after 2 innings. So this game didn't start the way they wanted it, but they certainly came out and finished it well. The box score is interesting to say the least. Jermaine Marquis went.
His name's Marquez, but he went 5 innings. And then the bullpen went 4 innings without giving up a run.
Only 2 hits for that bullpen.
Yeah, in 4 innings. They're back. And everybody got to pay attention now.
10 wins, everybody. We're out of single digits. It only took them, 60 games to get there? Yes. 10-50. So that's got to be a record, I'm sure. Well, obviously, we'll be catching up next week with Todd joining us. And we have the month of June, which is the month that, I should say, separates the really good teams from the not so good teams. And so we'll see what happens with the wild card. But I'm starting to see that with the divisions. You're starting to see some of these division leaders start to really break away. The Detroit Tigers, the Yankees, the Cubs. You're starting to see them kind of like distance themselves from the next best team in the division. So we get the month of June to sort it out. Any closing thoughts?
It's a marathon race. We're only about 35% through with it. So right now in the race, you just don't want to be so far behind that you can't catch up. If you're in sight of the leaders, you still have stuff to play for. But once the leaders get too far ahead of you, then each day that goes by, it looks darker and darker. So the next month will be really interesting.
As always, Dad, it's good having you on Swing Baddder. This is our weekly update where we get to go over the Batter 5. Let's hope your team doesn't get there. I'm your host, Brendan. That is my father. Thanks, everybody, for joining.
Night.